appreciate the better times with them. I remember saying, like, I hate Los Angeles. I hate it. I hate it to my core. And then Good Will Hunting came out, and then I had a little money, and suddenly I was living in a nicer house in a nicer part of town. I was like, it's great here. It's terrific. But, when we were broke and living, like, way outside of town, and, on a Friday afternoon, I'd have an audition in Santa Monica. It would take me 2 hours to get there, and I'd be stuck in traffic for 2 hours coming back, and I just go, like, who can live like this?
But did you always believe in yourself, or were there moments where you thought, okay, well, I'm going to find another job or go back to college?
No, the only time I ever questioned for a moment whether or not I could do this was after Courage Under Fire came out, and I was really happy with my work in that movie, and I really put myself through a lot, and I had to get on this medication and everything, and the reviews came out, and I read the New York Times, and I read the Boston Globe, and I was living in Boston, and they didn't mention me, and I remember thinking, well, yeah, and I remember I didn't know about press kits. I didn't know that people just read the press kit and then they go to do their review and they go like, no, but like I wasn't mentioned in the press kit. They were talking about Denzel Washington and Meg Ryan and then Lou Diamond Phillips. And those were the stars of the movie.
Yeah.
And so that's who people wrote about. And I remember thinking, I'm sitting here after all this, and and I'm sick. I'm literally. At the doctors, and and they don't even say I was in the movie. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I'm not going to be able to do this. But shortly thereafter, we'd already written and sold Good Will Hunting. That was at Miramax, and then I got the ring with it.
You had an incredible career. I was watching and remembering your movie, your romantic scenes in The Legend of Baderland, the dance with the Charlie.
Yeah.
It was romantic.
That was romantic, yeah.
So,
not a lot of people saw it, but it was romantic.
But it was a very beautiful movie. I love it.
Oh, thanks.
So, there is a movie that you really love more than all the others in your career?
Well, Good Will Hunting would be the one probably, just because it took so long. It changed our lives, but it was also literally like a 5-year process from when we started it to when it came out, and that 5 years was, from the time I was 22 to the time I was 27, to the time Ben was 20 till he was 25. And it was a significant part of our adult life was spent trying to get that movie made, and we made it up. That was the other thing. We weren't hired labor on that one. We started it. We made up the whole thing. We invented it out of thin air, and that feeling of that's a much deeper sense of.
But you are not nostalgic of that period.
Sure, a little bit. I don't want to go back there, but I have great memories from that time. It was. It's being broke or whatever, like, Ben and me and his little brother Casey, we lived, in a shitty house together, but had a lot of great times, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's all long before we were all married and all had our children. It's a much more carefree time when you're in your early 20s and you're just responsible for yourself. It's a nice time to reflect back.
We always have a lot of you. If you are writing again something, and you always say, yes, we are thinking about it.
It's just tough because he's in LA and I'm here, with small kids, and I just got a job in LA. That I started 4 weeks ago. I got out to LA and immediately went to see Ben and was like, I'm in LA, and he's like, I'm leaving tomorrow, and because Jen's got a job in Georgia, so Ben's at home with the kids and she's down there working. So he's like, I can't believe you finally made it out to LA and I'm leaving. So it's just the way it's gone for us the last number of years. So he wrote The Town and directed it and started. He's been very busy. But I've just been getting these terrific acting gigs and we definitely plan, I know I say it every time, we do plan to find stuff. He just got a great project that he's doing in Warner Brothers called Argo, which is he's going to direct, which is a fantastic story, which I just read last week. It's a great script. So he's going to star in and direct that. So.
You are such a good runner in this film, and you remind me that you produced the documentary Running in Sahara a few years ago. And there was a one marathon around the Cameroon.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And do you think it's then possible that you will work with him in the near future? And also in Taiwan, we still have a ultra marathon runner, Tommy Chen. Do you know him?
I don't.
Because he's the first one Asian runner just finished I think the South Pole race.
Oh, he ran the South Pole?
Yeah.
By himself or with other guys?
With the other guys.
Oh,
In
wow.
the third place in the first Asian runner.
Wow, that's great.
So it's not impossible that you have any plan to make another documentary with
Kevin?
Kevin or Tommy Chen?
I haven't heard, nobody's come to us with an idea. I mean, that was an idea that those guys came up with, Charlie and Kevin, and and Ray. They had this idea to run the Sahara Desert, and we said, well, if you're going to do that, let us film you, and we'll make a documentary about it. So if we were approached again by someone, certainly, look into it. We really love that movie.
Mm-hmm. So top secret being a user and the actor.
Well, it depends. I mean, I tend not to produce. Stuff like that. Usually, my name helps it get made, and that's why I'll put my name on it. But producing itself is it's a real trade. It's a real hard job, and I think I've never been an actor because you can contractually get your name put on as a producer. I've just never been an actor who really does that because I feel like that the person who's actually physically producing the movie should have that. Right.
You have a new movie every month this year.
Really?
Every month.
I'm going for the record.
Yeah.
Um,
Never stop working.
I think it just seems like that. Like last year, I did Hereafter and True Grit. Hereafter I shot for 3 weeks in January, a little bit of February because it was Clint, and that's like shooting 10 weeks with someone else. And then I did True Grit, which was only 25 days of shooting that the Coen brothers spread out over the 3 months so that I could commute from here and go and work a couple days a week and not be away from my kids too much. And then that ended in the end of May, and I was off from May till after Thanksgiving. So I was off for 6 months. What did you do? I was here in New York and just taking the kids to school and just being a dad and hanging around and didn't get anything work-wise done for 6 months, but had a great time with my kids. And then in December I did a job with Soderbergh, but it was 2 weeks. So it was like like working with Clint. It's probably a 6-week job on somebody else's movie, but with Steven it's just 2 weeks. And I worked for a week in Chicago, came home to see the family, and then went back and worked another week, and that was it. And now I started this new movie, and this is a real 12-week job that I'm on now. So this is the first kind of full movie that I've done in over a year, since the Adjustment Bureau, actually.
And now, and next?
And next I'm going to do Neil Blomkamp's next movie, Allegiance, it's called, and I'm really, really excited about that. It's going to be great. He's somebody who, I don't know if you guys saw District 9. Love that movie. And he came out of visual effects, so when he came to talk to me about the movie, he gave me a script, but he also prepared a full book of the world and what it was going to look like, and the weapons and the cars. It's just like unbelievable amount of all these details, and he said that's how he works. He likes to create the entire world and then kind of give it to you. So that I'm doing this summer in Vancouver.
Is acting less important to you now that you have a big family? So if you just said that you wanted to spend more time with your family,
It's still a big part of who I am. I love to work. I mean, I believe in hard work. I like, to do it.
or like really picky on what you?
I think so. I mean, I do try to be very picky. It's weird, you know, it's with movies, like, if we could see the final movie before we made it, no one would make a bad movie, you know. But, you know, yeah, you can literally only just kind of make your best educated guess about a project, and based on all the different components, and then you just, you know, you hope it works out. So, but I do love to work, you know, but we have a, you know, a 2-week rule that we're rigid about, and I don't want to wake up and not know my kids. Right? That would be an utter failure of a life for me, and that's not something that my wife or I would let happen.
Do you think your children have very different childhoods from the one you had?
Yeah, I mean, we try to make it as normal as possible, but, you know, the fact is they're in California right now because I've got a job there, so sometimes we have to go on the road. You know, or, I mean, what I really try to do is work as much as I can here, because there's a good tax deal in New York, and so you can make a good argument for any production to come and shoot their interiors here, even if their exteriors are being shot somewhere else. So that's what I'm trying to work at, to try to give them as much stability as possible so they can stay in school and stay with their friends.
Do you think it's some sort of values that you got from your parents? What are the same things that you want to pass on to yours?
Yeah, I mean, all the values I got from my parents I want to pass on to my kids. Well, you know, I want them to be critical thinkers. I want them to be compassionate. I want them to be take responsibility for their actions, to be accountable for the choices that they make, and you know, I want them to be good, active, engaged citizens and part of the community.
Oh, you are very involved in water laws. I remember in Toronto and in some other movements.
Mm-hmm.
Which space in your life this type of work and mission also? Yeah,
it takes up my free time because the problem is so incredibly enormous, and you know, every 15 seconds a child dies because they don't have access to clean water and sanitation, which is really staggering. The number of people are dying, and it's like, you know, these are, you know, we cured cholera, or, you know, say diarrhea, right? I mean, you don't know any kids here who die of diarrhea. It just doesn't happen in America, you know, and yet it happens constantly in these sort of third world countries. And imagine if we cured cancer tomorrow. Like, we've had the ability to, you know, we've known, you know, about this for 100 years. Imagine if we cured cancer tomorrow, and in 100 years people were still dying of it. It's unconscionable. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to drastically reduce eventually the number of people who are dying these ridiculous, pointless deaths.
Have having keep yourself making more conscious on this problem?
I think so, probably. I think it's hard not to feel connection to your kids. It's hard not to see your own kids.
You just mentioned Soderbergh. Did you mean you finished shooting the production?
No, we were shooting Contagion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Because
the Liberace we're going to do next June.
Okay.
Do you read the reviews, and when you read negative reviews, what do you feel? Feel upset or any negative emotion?
Well, it's just, you know, I think the negative reviews that are kind of vitriolic are the ones that annoy me a little bit, because they just speak such an ignorance about the process of filmmaking. It's really hard to make movies, and when you see people just slag, like, I mean, even, you know, even bad movies take thousands of hours, you know, to make, and